Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Vertical Reach podcast. This is where storytelling meets strategy. I'm Pauline Gray, and each week I sit down with the creators, innovators, and voices shaping the world of vertical storytelling. Let's tell stories that connect. As my loyal audience knows, the vertical reach is that moment when you extend upward, either physically or professionally, to meet what you know exists above where you are right now, just over the horizon, when staying at the same level is no longer enough. Vertical reaching is the act of rising to meet what's higher, with your body, your work, your ambition, or your relationship. And the Vertical Reach podcast is about people who didn't just pivot careers, which you'll see today from Maryna. You'll be blown away. They changed altitude or perhaps planets. This season focuses on filmmakers and creators entering the vertical microdrama space, usually as part of a larger integration or reinvention of the self. My goal is to document real-time transitions, moment to moment, the blow by blow, not to deliver some sort of polished hindsight. And today in the guest chair, we have an incredible producer, Maryna Bogdan. Maryna is Crane-born and Los Angeles-based film producer. Get this, after nearly a decade in insurance and risk management, Maryna transitioned into film. She quickly became known for combining creative instincts with strong operational expertise. Her credits include narrative films, music videos, commercial campaigns, and recently vertical dramas produced for Fox Entertainment. And her main credits include Saddled with My Nemesis, which she co-executive produced for My Drama, and The Secret Billionaire Garbageman, also co-executive produced for My Drama. And with that sort of like broad brush stroke overview, I'll let Maryna take it away. Take us back to Kiev, if you don't mind.
To Ukraine.
Or Kiev, as Americans.
I mean, I grew up in a small town in eastern Ukraine, so very far away from Kiev. And yeah, I mean, I was always interested in creativity, music, dance, theater, like cinema, and so that was kind of a natural progression for me to get involved in something like filmmaking. But that didn't start until I was 25 years old. So I tried every form of creativity from the days that I was like a teenager and pre-teenager until I was 25 and I settled down with film. I tried music, photography, art, painting, little bit of, theater and dance and writing. I wanted to be a writer first and foremost, and that's how I kind of started out. And yeah, here I am.
Maria, I'm really curious, if you don't mind sharing, did you emigrate to the US before or after the war started?
So during the war, I think it was 2015. So the war in my area of Ukraine started in 2014. So yeah, so that was like 9 months later.
So you left then, and you're able to leave through some Polish underground tunnel or...
No, it wasn't like that at the time. It was a bit easier. So
Mm.
because the war used to be contained to the eastern part of Ukraine, and then I moved somewhere else when it like just begun. So I was living in central Ukraine and then back in eastern Ukraine. So the leaving part wasn't like as complicated, I guess, but it was still kind of like a lot of logistics involved in it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So were you doing insurance in Ukraine and risk management, or were you
No.
starting in America? How did that sort of unfold?
Yeah. I mean, no, I wasn't doing that in Ukraine. I was a writer in Ukraine. I was a copywriter and I was writing text for advertising, the internet, e-commerce, whatever that was. But that was kind of my college job. And then when I got to America, I worked in the service industry. I worked in restaurants. And then at some point I was getting tired of working in customer service, especially like a restaurant customer service, right? And I wanted to get an office job. And the insurance kind of came to be, and I stuck around for 9 years, almost 9 years. So I'm super grateful for that experience because it taught me a lot. It gave me so much knowledge and expertise, just how things work in this world, how different businesses operate, how the corporate companies operate. And that genuinely taught me a lot. And I'm super grateful for having done that.
Amazing. Just how business is conducted and protected and risks
Yeah.
management. But you had, I imagine, you kind of had this angel devil, industry angel devil creativity thing buzzing in your ear.
I mean, yes, I dealt a lot with entertainment businesses as well, like movies and TV production and the insurance for them. Well, it's obviously it's not easy to make money making movies right off the bat. So I was doing insurance by day and I was making movies by night. I was writing after work and on the weekends I was making short films, helping my friends with their shorts. So any spare time that I had, most of it was dedicated to the filmmaking industry and like all the vacation days, all the like sick days, all of that was kind of spread out and I just did film stuff. I went to film festivals, used
Mhm.
my vacation days to on that and was helping my friend with shoots, like did the music videos, did my own short films. So yeah, it was definitely a challenge to combine these together and kind of be here and there at the same time.
Yeah, I think
But
that.
yeah, it's possible. A lot of people do it, and because the film industry is just very hard to make money in, and when you're just starting out, I feel like it's so important to have that financial stability because otherwise you won't be able to create anything because you'll be just so stressed about the money all the time, and that will like just like be the end of it when you're just starting out, when you're just like making your first attempts and writing and directing and producing whatever it is that you pick for yourself, like chances are you're not going to get paid for like years. So while still learning, it was important for me to have a stable job, stable source of income so I can focus on creating something. Yeah. But,
Wow,
now things change.
Marina, you just delivered a master class to my earlier self. You
Really?
don't know. No,
To
seriously.
mine too.
No, seriously, because I now, mind you, you're like kind of bookending because when I started in the film industry, first of all, there was actually a lot of work available.
Right. Yeah.
You could actually earn pretty decent living
Hmm.
in an unstable field,
Hmm.
even as a production assistant, quite honestly.
Hmm.
I did commercials, and a commercial production assistant could buy a house.
Wow.
Yeah, when I started.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You have pretty much just delivered a master class to my, in hindsight, younger self. Because when I joined the industry, fresh out of film school, mind you, first of all, it was quite possible to earn a living as a freelancer and do just fine. As a production assistant, you could, in theory, buy a house for your earnings. Now, however, on the other side of it, I myself am now looking to secure a full time job for the first time ever in my 30-year career in the film industry in order to create the stable platform you just mentioned to be a filmmaker. And I never thought I'd be in that situation. So I'm really curious. You could just maybe like share a little bit more for people, 25 to 35, that range, who are looking to leave film school, enter the film industry, like just underline that necessity of stability at this point in the industry.
As far as someone who's fresh out of college and entering the film industry, it's such a variety of experiences that I'm seeing, and the various ways people live their lives, right? So it really depends on each individual situation. I know people who still live at home after graduating from school and they are able to participate in the projects that don't pay or pay very little, but then you don't have responsibilities like rent, like car payment. So if that makes you happy, if that's kind of like where you are in life, by any means, do that, do whatever makes you happy. But if you want to like enter the industry now, my advice would be learn how to do something else that's not related to the industry or to customer service because anyone can be a good customer service worker with a little bit of training. Anyone can be a server or retail worker, but you need to have like a specific skill that you can offer and get paid for that is not related to filmmaking. It could be adjacent to film, but it cannot be like a film skill. You know what I mean? And that will be super helpful. That will be helpful for your career outside if you choose to pursue that. Or it will be helpful for your career in film because people in film want to see individuals who have background in finance, in accounting, risk management. If you go on LinkedIn and you search these like studio jobs, right? You're not going to see them seeking writer directors, or people who made short films. They seek
Mhm.
people with this specific skill. And if you ever kind of like worked in that corporate setting, then it's really clear like what type of people you're looking for and what you can offer. So it will be in your best interest to just learn something that has to do with the numbers, with spreadsheets,
Excel,
whatever
like
it is.
I love it. So let me ask you this. To that point, what carried over from your earlier work in the risk management, in the insurance, like aside from the brain skills of analytics, per se, like what might have been sort of the transitional parallels?
It's really easy because I sort of like I was trained to evaluate every sort of operation from that standpoint, from that point of view. So when I get signed on a project, that is basically my first question. What are we doing insurance wise? By reading the script, I can evaluate and see what will be the biggest risk on that project. For example, animals or locations or stunt
Pyrotechnics.
pirate. I mean, yeah, that's kind of like, self-explanatory. Yeah, of course, like if you're blowing something up, that will be like crazy. But sometimes it's even the locations, like what is the distance walking from the base camp to the shooting location?
Yeah.
Because insurance wise, if we're like, I don't want to make turn it into insurance master class, but sometimes those like workers' comp injuries on set, they don't really tie to anything crazy. It's literally like people carry heavy stuff for extended amount of time and they might get injured. So that is kind of like something that I always look at and evaluate. Like, oh, how's that going to work? Are we going to have a miner on set? Are we going to have an animal on set? Making sure all the dates line up and, all of that. And as far as like the equipment, like where does it go overnight? Does it sit in some random parking lot or is it parked on the street? God forbid that never do that.
Is there a guard?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, are we renting any picture cars? Like who will ask for that COI? And usually way more people ask for it than you anticipate, right? Even for a short film. It's like, all of a sudden you have 10 people asking you for a COI because you're renting a vehicle, you're renting the equipment, like your crew members bring their own equipment, like you have a mic and like you need workers' comp regardless, but when you have a minor, it's like not even a question. Like you have to have it. And then you have like a stunt person come in, and all of that kind of gets put together, and it can get really overwhelming for someone who doesn't know, who hasn't dealt with that. But to me, it was like, you know,
Never did.
I done it so many times, and like understanding those relationships, like what is the risk, who will need it, how do we mitigate it, who's bringing what type of equipment, at what point, what are we renting, what do we need, to make sure this production is because every production is a small business, or a big business. It's a business, and how do we make sure this production is protected to um fullest, to its fullest, so that if anything happens, we don't have any sort of issues, or, the issues that arise don't get like ballooned and become the end for the production company or operations. So yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
It's funny you mentioned insurance because I remember when I was really daunted because my first producing situation, I was shooting at LAX.
Wow.
And bear in mind, this was before 9/11, mind you.
Okay. Yeah.
And LAX wanted what I thought was an impossible task, which was an original certified certificate of insurance.
Yeah. Mhm.
So whereas normally they're kind of like just kind of sort of like a stack, like FedEx. I was like FedEx,
I see.
like
I see. Yeah.
labels like that, you know? You just rip
Yeah.
one off, fill it in, Dale Fisher, Chapman, whatever. And all of a sudden they're like, no, we need the real thing.
Yeah.
And so it became this complicated, like, go to the company, and it was very daunting. But yeah, I said, this is LAX. I mean, shit could go down, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Airports are like very special usually with that. And, any business that comes into the airport, like they don't really treat film production as something separate. They treat all the businesses the same,
Hmm.
including the film shoots. So, yeah, it's a little bit more complex situation.
Let me ask you this. As you made this transition,
Hmm.
what felt risky for you? What felt inevitable?
From insurance to film.
Yeah.
Well, I was doing kind of both at the same time for almost 5 years. And I was, of course, the money, the income, going from something stable to something unstable. You don't know how much money you're going to make every month, and it's very sort of up and down. And also, I mean, it's a whole like lifestyle change, I think, because a lot of people almost romanticize filmmaking, right? It's like, oh, my life
It's
is going to be like this. And then,
You and George Clooney are gonna be hanging out at Lake Como and tomorrow, and
yeah, yeah. And, and in actuality, it's like, okay, very long days with very little sleep. How do you manage yourself? For me, it was very hard on like the long shoots to just stay awake. I couldn't like do anything with myself like around day 8, right? It's like when your body gets so tired, you just can't stay awake and you like take naps on set and it can get kind of crazy and the coffee doesn't help anymore and like no matter how much you drink it. And so yeah, those are the challenges, when you're busy and you can't do like cooking, kind of these normal activities, right? And you don't have the time to go to a grocery store. So you need to kind of work around the schedule of yours and make sure that there is at least some type of balance in your life,
yeah.
which is like if we're talking 9 to 5, 9 to 6, it's a bit different because when I was working in the office, it was my nights were kind of pretty much the same every night. I would come home from work, make dinner, and just watch TV or scroll my phone or
Yeah.
write, or if I had a project, I would work on a project. So I was like slowly getting used to uh, long days.
Very early on, I realized I can't take night shoots.
Yeah.
Berkeley cannot take night shoots, and I'd rather forgo the income
Mhm.
than have my entire body clock turn
Right.
off. Because really, a night shoot, basically, you work one night, but it costs your body 3, 4 days.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
I
know, and it's actually always amazed too, because absolutely my job is to pay attention. But for example, my job is pretty much written, and I would just watch the first camera assistant, mind you.
Mhm.
And for those of you who are maybe fresh to the actual inner workings of a crew, the first camera assistant is the person who makes sure every image is actually in focus. He actually is called a focus puller. That's actually his job, focus puller. So and this is a very scientific. I mean, a skilled focus puller will know that at 10 feet of distance on a 35 millimeter camera shooting 120 frames per second, you must pull focus at this moment. And quite honestly, even now, like, I mean, to this day, the major film studios have a list of, I think, about 10 people, focus pullers, are allowed to work on major studio films. And it started, of course, back in the day because you were shooting on film, which is quite costly. And so you can't literally afford to have a shot be out of focus. So you got to do it again and again and again. So that shifted somewhat. But another thing, so even as a script supervisor, I know that I cannot not get my rest. It's just not worth it. And the other thing, too, I'd say now on the other side of my career, what I'm realizing now too, and I'm sure you've noticed this too, Maryna, I was always startled at how people could take vacations. I never understood it. Like literally my housekeeper who had immigrated from Latin America could take a vacation. My Procter& and Gamble corporate client, the VP, the CMO, could take a vacation. And I was like, huh, how does that work? And my housekeeper, she always knew she had these 10 houses that were loyal. When she got back from her son's wedding in Mexico or wherever it was, 2 weeks later, he just had the key to my house. She just come clean my house. The CMO at Procter& and Gamble, he had his 10 vacation days. So you'd go to Switzerland, come back, and it means you and I, mind you, we were like, ain't getting paid those 10 days. We have to, we just won't be earning money. And then I thought it's worse. Actually, I don't have any children, but I thought, I could have seen a world looking back now where if I'd had the stable, steady job, right? I might, in fact, even have a child because married or single, you know, to income or no, so in the film industry, you can't really take maternity leave. I mean, very few households, joint, shared, whatever, can just have a 3-month cut in the income while they're raising a newborn child, So yeah, so there's definitely things that, in retrospect, as I said, you're speaking to my younger self now with clarity, that yeah, it's interesting to hear this. Right. So let me ask you this though. Do you now define success in maybe a different way?
Success for me. So right now, I spent I think 5 years, and I started really writing scripts and during COVID and learning the ropes in 2019. So I don't know, 7 years I think now. So I always kind of wanted to get to the point where I could do it as my job, and I'm kind of at that point now. So for me right now, success would be like you said, I want to have at least like 2 weeks out of the year where I don't think about filmmaking. I don't think about sets, and I just want to live life that's also outside of that and have balance in my life and have people in my life that are not filmmakers that do different jobs, And I really appreciate to have friends in many different fields. I still have
Uh,
a lot of friends in insurance. I have friends who work in medical field, and they don't know anything about film sets, and it's such joy to like talk to them, because sometimes it could really feel like a bubble. You're
mhm.
always on set, you're always networking, you're always trying to get your next gig. So for me, success will be to also live life, just like enjoy little things and sort of like live a life of a human being, because that's a job. I don't want this job to consume my entire life. And yeah, I'm also a human who is interested in other things. And I think it's just healthier that way for my mind to not be 100% of the time consumed by the filmmaking and my career. So, yeah, that will be the success.
I love it. I love it. No, and this is so amazing because I love doing interviews because, like, my last interview I did was with this British woman who works for a major British production company, but it turns out she and I went to the same film school in
Uh,
Bristol, England.
oh, okay.
And so we kind of bookended as well. And what's amazing to me, I've seen this amazing education myself because I really saw right during COVID the rise of this concept called work-life balance. It seems kinda enter the zeitgeist, And I was like, "Huh," because I remember very clearly, like it was yesterday, 2 strange things, right? One was my then production manager, one-up boss, really having to negotiate with the producer how to go to her uncle's funeral and whether that was something he could actually be allowed to do.
Mhm,
And it was a back and forth, and of course, you don't have weeks and weeks to decide. I mean, I think she finally was able to reach a compromise where she attended something related to the funeral,
mhm.
but it was definitely a negotiation.
Wow.
And then on the other side, just recently, it's actually fairly recently, I was on this WhatsApp chat, but what became clear was that during this industry veteran's funeral, right, there's quite a bit of networking going on. And not just networking going on, but during this, get this, guys, this is the Vertical Reach podcast, right?
Yeah.
During the funeral or the whatever, the wake, whatever afterwards, the topic of conversation was very much vertical filmmaking.
I'm not surprised. There we go. I mean, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but it's just so funny. I'm like, wow, the film industry is the only business where it's perfectly fine to network in a funeral.
I think
Why are
I'm
you here?
not the only one. I think, I've seen some insurance networking at the funerals. So, it's everywhere.
Yeah, but it's just like, what the hell? But so, see, I'm so glad to now, I'm going to enter this. If I answer my question list, going forward, I'm going to ask my guests how they define work-life balance in the film industry, because that is a whole new concept. I think that
Yeah.
now is crossing the minds of people in the film industry.
Yeah.
And my next question for you, my friend, is what is your next swipe up?
My next what?
Swipe up. In vertical films, you swipe up.
Oh, you swipe up. Yeah.
So, Marina, let me ask you this. Amazing transition from, Ukraine to America to insurance to deep niching down into production insurance. So you know exactly why you should not have a lion on the set with an elephant and a child and park vehicles on the street and it's all at once, how that's not a wise choice. And now you're producing, writing for My Drama and many other platforms, I'm sure. But tell me this, what is your next swipe up?
My next one, so the vertical industry is changing rapidly, right? 3 months ago, when I produced the two shows for My Drama, we weren't seeing as much AI. Right now, it's everywhere, so we don't know what's going to happen, like how popular these stories will become, and they are popular right now. I am definitely interested in producing something live action and like continuing doing what I did, what I know how to do, what I like how to do. And I think my prediction, I don't know if I'm qualified to make that prediction, but I think it will the audience will still watch both. Depending on your taste, depending on what you want to see. If you are loyal to your favorite actors, and I'm on TikTok a lot, so I do a lot of kind of research and I interact with the vertical audience. And of course, a lot of them are the fans of the actors. So I next for me would be continue producing better content, bigger content, but also, I'm very much in the indie film space and I come from that space. So I'm going to work on a feature in September, directed by my really good friend Arturo Benavides. He's a director with his own unique style and I'm super happy to collaborate with him. But also, I really like both. I like Verkos for how much of like chick flicks they are because this is my favorite type of story. This is my favorite type of movie. I don't need anything else. These are the movies I grew up on. A Cinderella story, The Notebook, Pretty
Oof.
Woman, Dirty Dancing. Oh my gosh, Legally Blonde, the Olsen twins movies. Like they're such simple plots. They're the movies for the girls. And I find that same kind of plot lines in the verticals. That's why I genuinely enjoy them. And I think there is like big future in verticals going horizontal because right now that we are seeing this new trend of verticals being filmed horizontally as well. And they could find a different home and a second home outside of the app potentially. I think there's like a big demand for it because we haven't seen a good chick flick in a while.
Mhm,
Maybe there's like one or two, the movie with Sydney Sweeney, like the rom-com that they did in Australia. I
mhm.
think it was called Anyone But You. That
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
probably the closest to those like early 2000s rom-coms that I love so much. But right now it's like I see the lineup in the theaters and it's like it's a different kind of movie. And I would really enjoy something like a vertical kind of storytelling back in the cinema, back in mainstream. And yeah, so that's kind of like my goal, like promoting chick flicks, rom coms, and like a good romance that is like exciting to watch and they'll make you giggle and smile and feel some type of way and maybe cry. That's what's next, hopefully.
No, I love it, I love it. I write rom-coms out of Christmas
Perfect.
movies, and most of my material, most of my screenplays are rom-com Christmas movies, and
Mhm.
I grew up in the era of, like, Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks, You've Got Mail, and my favorite lines in the rom-com world is Rosie O'Donnell, I think, telling Meg Ryan it might be Sleepless in Seattle or You've Got Mail, one of those 2, where Rosie O'Donnell says, "You don't wanna be in love. You wanna be in love in a movie."
Mm.
And who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want that? Here's my last piece. It's what I call my permission slip moment for one's own vertical reach. Okay. So I fundamentally believe that we as individuals, particularly women, mind you, we ourselves don't actually have a quote unquote personal comfort zone. We may, in fact, just have the zone, real or imagined, in which people in our environment are comfortable seeing us in and respond to whatever subtle cues we're receiving from those people in our environment and may often stay within their comfort zone for us. So I'm asking you now to give those people who are trying to look over the fence of their comfort zone or kind of feeling tight in their comfort zone, little, maybe even in a straight jacket per se. I want you to give them your permission to change their lives and make their vertical reach?
I would say don't be afraid to take the leap into the unknown. And I'm a big proponent of having a day job. You know, I had a day job for 9 years and I was doing different things around it and try to live my life that way. But then at some point I realized, okay, I need to at least try. I need to at least try to not have a day job and see where it goes. If I'm absolutely miserable, I will go back. And it goes the other way too, right? Like if you are feeling miserable and if getting a full-time job will make you happy, go do that. You know, don't be married to any type of idea of yourself, you know, even if that does not make you happy. I think it's very important to have honest conversations with yourself and determine where you want to be. So my permission goes either way, you know. If you want to take that leap and become a full-time filmmaker, or at least try and see if that works, despite what all these people tell you, oh, it's never gonna work, you're gonna be miserable, you're gonna be homeless. You're faced with so much discouragement from your friends, from your family, you know, everybody's worried. But I think it's very important to just go for it. You know, have a plan. Don't go for it with like $0 in your bank account and $50,000 in credit card debt. That's not a good idea. Be smart about it, but go for it, you know, and the same thing, go the other way. If that's something that will make you feel better, if that will allow you to focus on your creativity and be a better artist, if you take that worry out of the picture, go the other way. Look for jobs, look for that stability. There is no right or wrong way to be a filmmaker, to be a creative. If some people don't want to pursue it as a career, right? They want to make movies and they want to keep it very independent, like keep it very indie. They're not interested in Hollywood, in becoming a part of this machine. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's also somebody who's very ambitious and who wants to make it specifically in Hollywood, then their path will be different. So it really depends on how you see your success and how you defined it. But, you know, whatever makes you happy. Yeah, just do that.
I love it. I love it. Oh, there we are, guys. You know, whatever makes you happy. Hashtag for the show, whatever makes you happy. Thank you, Maryna. And to my audience, whatever makes you happy. Remember, if you're building something new or becoming someone new, this is the vertical reach. And no matter what, keep swiping up. Take care. Thank you so much. Thank you, Maryna. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you for
guys.
having me. All right, bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Vertical Reach podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If it sparked something for you, please share it with a fellow storyteller. Until next time, let's tell stories that care.